Uh, I really had no intention to do a skull session after that game. I feel like most of us saw it, or at least a meaty portion of it. We're able to form our opinions and want to watch other things the rest of the day. But I made the mistake of going on social media, and which is often a mistake. And if it were a couple here and there, a one-off, some outliers, I would have just made my comments, make my posts, and moved on. But this, I think, needs a skull session to get my thoughts out there, and in my opinion, properly orient this fan base. High level, Wisconsin went into Bryant-Denny today and got thoroughly beaten by a team with superior talent from the gun to the end. I am not denying that. There's no way, you can't talk yourself out of that. That is exactly what happened. Okay. Team with a bunch of NFL guys beat a team with a few in a place that's very hard to win. I keep being called a Fickell apologist, but I try and give objective information, and that is what I will continue to try and do. Okay. Yes, every team is different. Yes, this is not a vintage Nick Saban Alabama team. But the fact is, there's so many 4 and 5 stars in the team, you can almost stop counting them. And the National Coach of the Year from 2 years ago is the coach. That's a fact. Okay? Just a fact. So, is losing by 24 in a place where the team had lost 3 times in 10 seasons, 11 seasons now. Bama's lost 3 times at Bryant-Denny. Playing in the SEC and SEC West for a substantial portion of that. Playing the elite teams year after year after year after year in your home stadium. 3 losses. 3. They lose a home game every 3 to 4 years. So Wisconsin, with a backup quarterback, probably a slightly overglazed backup quarterback, if you ask me, in hindsight. Although the kid plays tough. I like the cut of his jib. I hope he has a future. And a jerry-rigged offensive line, which has not looked even close to the same from game to game to game because of injuries and lack of performance, was probably never going to go in there and give that team a game today. Okay. Of course, Bama gets back Williams, and he puts an NFL, that's an NFL potential top 10, 15 pick next year. And he goes in and puts an NFL top 10, 15 pick kind of performance. On a cornerback room and secondary where the defense, I'm telling you guys, people want to rail on the defense, and those guys went in and did the best. Just out there too much. Again, too many weapons. Okay. Offense didn't hold up there to the bargain today. Did Fickell and his staff call a perfect game? I don't think so. Had they called a perfect game, would they have won today? No. Doesn't excuse it. I'm just saying. I'm seeing people just like, and this is getting into the central theme of what I'm going to talk about here. Luke Fickell, the program has gone off the edge with him, over the ledge with him. Okay. I guess whether that is true or whether that is not true, ultimately, in terms of where he takes this program, is still a matter of discussion. We don't know. But I do not believe today Luke Fickell losing this game proves that he's not the right coach for this program. Proves that the team wasn't ready to play. Proves that we need to make a change at the top. The hyperbole that I'm seeing on by Wisconsin fans is so outlandish, and yet so customary and so on brand. Getting back to where I said at the top, here I am. Okay. I am going to talk about the Mandela effect. Many of you know what that is. It's when some people, and a large group of people usually, remembers an event happening a certain way when it happened a different way. Okay? And how it relates to today is this. There's a Mandela effect with Wisconsin fans relative to Luke Fickell about Luke Fickell can't win a big game, but more importantly, I can't believe we just got embarrassed on the road at Alabama. Oh, that's not the Wisconsin way. We've gone so far from how we used to do on the road against elite teams. I have some jarring news for Wisconsin fans who believe that. And I have gone to Twitter to show this. There have been exceptions, but those exceptions are few and far between. The last 10 plus years, the Wisconsin Badgers have been atrocious against really good teams on the road. The Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States, the Alabamas of the world. Atrocious. Like, don't beat them and get blown out in those games. The Notre Dames, that wasn't a true road game even. Probably half the stadium was Wisconsin fans. One after the other, after the other, after the other, and many of these were on during the quote unquote Christ era that was golden. Okay, some of them haven't been. Some of them have been more recent. 2019 Rose Bowl team, 10-win Wisconsin Rose Bowl team, got eviscerated on the road at Ohio State that year by more points than Wisconsin lost to Alabama to today. They were a tomato can that day. No one remembers that. That's a Rose Bowl team. Okay? 2018, the year before it, coming off the Orange Bowl victory. Wisconsin goes into Ann Arbor and gets eviscerated by the Wolverines. It was not an elite Wolverines team. Wisconsin got killed. Notre Dame at Soldier Field. Again, not a true road game, but that doesn't Wisconsin doesn't get the advantage of that. It's worse. Yeah, I understand a lot of it was late. The game was close in the third quarter towards the end there. The final score was a far more than Wisconsin lost to today. They played Alabama again, not a true road game. I think it was in Houston, 2015. Chris first year got eviscerated destroyed by, skull-effed by Derrick Henry in Alabama that day. In a score that was probably not as close as it actually was. I think 35-17. I could go on and on. This gives me no joy to do this. But I could go on and on and on about this if we wanted to. 2021, big-time game at the Horseshoe against Ohio State. Destroyed. Bludgeoned in that game. Other than a long Braylon Allen run, which was super impressive, that was an absolute discombobulation of the Badgers that day. That wasn't Luke Fickell. None of those games I mentioned were Luke Fickell. And some of those games I mentioned were during really good Wisconsin seasons, or at least solid Wisconsin seasons. So, two things. The premise that Wisconsin losing by 24 on the road to a ranked Alabama team is playing with a backup quarterback and a jerry-rigged offensive line somehow means that Luke Fickell can't be the guy for Wisconsin. You are just completely off base. You can make an argument using a full range of things, but you cannot use that as the reason why that's true. You can't do it, guys. Okay? Not when, Paul Chryst was losing 52-21 at Ohio State, a 31-point loss, a substantially worse loss than this at the Horseshoe. Unless we are going to count the 2019 game, it was an impressive game where Wisconsin went up to Minneapolis and beat down the Gophers on the road to get them into the Rose Bowl. And I'm not reducing this. That was a really impressive win, an incredible game plan, incredibly well-coached team. The offense and defense played well, special teams played well. They did it. I can't think of another game, though, And that was, I believe Minnesota was top 10. Probably shouldn't have been, but they were. That certainly wasn't a blue blood, but it was a top 10 team. I don't remember another time Wisconsin's gone and won a road game against a really, really good team. Can you think of any? Can you think of one for me? In the last 10 plus years? I just don't know where that would have been. Yeah, we beat Iowa a couple times. Those weren't elite Iowa teams. Those weren't blue blood Iowa teams. So I'm not trying to shit on the Wisconsin football program the last 10 years. There have been some great success, and no one has been a bigger well, that's not true. There have been people who have been bigger defenders. But I've been a very big defender across those years of Paul Chryst and have noted why things might have gone wrong. I think he lost the joie de vivre for coaching based on some of the changes in the game. Talented coach, though, and a good dude. But Wisconsin has been horrific against elite type teams on the road the last 10 plus years. This is not a Luke Fickell thing. My God. However convenient that is to convince yourself that how much you hate Luke Fickell. And you know what, Fickell, with this schedule and how we don't know, maybe they win 4 games this year. I don't know. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I've been very clear about this. But nothing that happened today in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, has convinced me that this can't be a 6 or 7 win team, as I've been saying all along. This game was always a loss, really, if we're being realistic about it. They just had way better dudes, guys, in a tough environment to play in. And the result happened as it should. But that result, as I have just shown you, was probably less bad than a lot of the results over really good teams on the road for Wisconsin the last 10 plus years. There is nothing strange. Oh, we couldn't get in your running room. Not a shock. That's happened. Okay. Gave up more points than we would have liked to. Not a shock. Happens all the time. So just de-Mandela effect yourselves when you were analyzing this team and what happened at Bryant-Denny Stadium today in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Free yourself of those preconceived notions that are factually incorrect. If you want to make an argument that this program is not where it should be, that this is not the right coach, that they don't have the right players, make those arguments on their own merit. But don't make them saying things used to be better in these kinds of games than they are now, because they simply were not, with rare exception. Okay? I just had to come on to say that. There are all kinds of detailed analyses of what happened today and why things were bad. And I'm not making excuses. I don't think the team played. They just didn't have it today. They lost to a better team in a tough place to play. And now we move on and play Maryland. And you got to beat Maryland. Okay. People making conclusions that because they lost by 24 to Alabama today, they're going to lose to Maryland. They're not going to be competitive again this year. It's just such a weird way of fanning and such a miserable way to live. I'm sorry for you. If Wisconsin ends up being bad this year and not making a bowl game and not fighting, playing hard, I'll jump on here and freely admit it. No problem. I'm not going to hide something, but I'm not going to use a false narrative, a faulty logic to try and prove my point. And this whole suddenly we can't show up against elite teams on the road, faulty logic. We haven't done it for a long ass time. Scary Alvarez is out.